Hey, everyone, we're going to give it a few minutes to allow people to enter the room. Looking good. Hey, everyone, I see people still joining the room. We're going to give it just a few minutes.
We're going to have some fun today.
Good morning. Yes, we are.
We are going to have some fun and add some value.
Room's still filling up right now. Let's give it a few minutes here. Yeah, definitely. The giftedness is one I was actually really looking forward to. It's, there's certain things you can control. There's certain things that you have to find out. You don't know what you don't know. So I've been personally looking forward to this one, Chad. So.
Yeah. Well.
Okay. So we're let's give it to 35. So 35, we'll give it 2 more minutes. We have quite a few people on right now. I still see people joining the room.
Fareed, while we're waiting for people to join, before we get started, I think that this topic is one of the toughest things for people to truly understand, because you're not trained to look for giftedness. You're trained to be good at everything. And today I'm going to talk about some of the things that you can identify giftedness in. The 3 areas that you can clearly identify it, and what's required to be in giftedness. But it's not natural, because school doesn't teach it. Most companies don't teach it, but yet they want to hire you for your talent, but they don't know how to get giftedness out of people. So we're going to talk about it today. We're going to have some fun, challenge each person on here.
Great. So you know what? We can actually get started here soon right now. So let me just open this up. Good morning, everyone on the East Coast and West Coast. It's still morning here. Europe, good afternoon. Hope all is well by you all. If you guys were at the gala, it's great seeing you guys all in person. It was an amazing one. We'll be posting a video of that soon, so you'll be able to see it. Today is the 4th edition of the Leadership Continuum. We have the luxury of having Chad Reyes in for John Piccarello. They're both co-partners in Lions Pride Leadership, and Chad will get into that in a minute. But just to kind of intro Chad and intro the program, Chad Reyes is not only an amazing friend to myself in the chapter, but a huge entrepreneur in the field and life coach. He's the executive director of Lions Pride Leadership, which develops entrepreneurs and business leaders to be more intentional and strategic in becoming who they believe they will be. It's a matter of having a focus and driving towards it. Executive director of I Am Empowering, Wealth and Legacy Group, and several other organizations alongside some industry leaders like John C. Maxwell. It's actually one of his mentors and coaches. Chad has helped us drive this leadership continuum. The continuum came into play earlier on. It was an idea of how to empower folks in the field, people, whether or not they're in our industry, whether there's risk, whether it's assurance, audit, it doesn't matter. And I said this at the gala, if you are an audit or risk professional or security professional or a car mechanic, the reality is that these leadership principles go fairly broad and deep. And it's something that can help each and every one of you get to that next level, especially in an environment where it's very difficult to do anything but be intentional. Even this video conference is intentional. We're seeing each other. We're having a communication. There's no more water cooler, so to speak. So the leadership series is an ISACA Metropolitan New York original. The series follows the chapter's recent focus on providing the membership additional coaching, leadership, and support guidance through the career continuum. The series spotlights one leader's leader every other month. So Chad led the last one 2 months ago. He's leading today in John Piccarello's absence. We had Nigel James before that and Jim Ambrosini before that, speaking about 3 different leadership principles, and today will be giftedness. Chad, I know we can't do justice in terms of introducing you, but some folks that may not have seen the first 3 series can go on isacanyyork.org and go to leadership. In the top right corner, you'll be able to see all 3 spotlight videos. And after this event, you'll see this one as well. But if you give them a quick recap of that, and then we can get into giftedness, that'd be great.
Yeah. So Farida, thank you for having us today. You know, when we were, when you had asked us, is this something that we'd like to do? My first thought was absolutely make a difference, invest in people, and that's our heart. You know, speaking about the first 3 parts that we discussed, those are the first 3. You are here, identify, and last month I spoke about awareness. How these 8 steps came about is my partner John and I, as we were preparing, we're saying, what are the 8 things that leaders need to work on? 15 years, there was a season where I was reading a book a week. So I've read probably close to 1,000 books in my career so far. And the problem with that, the great thing is you learn a lot. The problem is you don't know where to apply it and how to apply it and where it fits. So my framework, the 8 steps to developing people, and the goal was to basically identify.
I'm not sure if that's just on me. Sam, are you getting some technical kickback? Okay. Let's just give it a pause for a moment. Chad, you're everyone will have a little bit of a technical difficulty, so I'm just gonna see if we can reset Chad's access here.
Fareed, you can't hear me?
It was coming in and out. Just want to make sure that on your side, the connection, you have nothing else running on the machine. You kind of froze up and the audio went out.
Okay, how about now? Is it better?
It's a little better right now, but yeah, if there's anything else running, I'd say definitely try to pause that. And if we could restart, that'd be great.
Sorry about that.
No, totally fine. Let's do it.
All right. Well, Fareed, thank you for having us. And as I was saying, the first 3 steps are you are here, identify, and awareness. And I'm going to speak a little bit about that, but today we're going to be talking about giftedness. So the first step, you are here, was all about the 5 levels of leadership and understanding where you are in that. You know, the 5 levels when it comes to, are you a, position leader? Are you a permission leader? Are you a production leader? You know, these are all different types of leaders, and where are you on that? So you are here is the first part. And I think Jim Ambrosini did a phenomenal job with that. And then Nigel James came in and was talking about identify and how important it was to identify the right people, identify if you're the right person and the right leader as you're developing your team. And then last month I spoke about awareness. And if you didn't hear my story, I shared within a year how I got arrested, how I shot up an FBI building with a BB gun, and how I went bankrupt at 21 years old. So if you haven't seen that one, I would go back and watch it because it's a pretty interesting one. But today we're going to be talking about giftedness. And then the last 4 are style, character, motivation, and journey. But I'm excited today to talk to you about giftedness. I hear giftedness often. When I say the word giftedness, many times people say to me, well, what do you mean by giftedness? So if that's something that you're thinking about today, we're going to answer that question. And I want to encourage you to put your questions in the chat box, because we're going to have a discussion today. I'm going to share with you the stuff that we've done with helping corporations, entrepreneurs, develop teams, because this is what I know. Your organization will only grow to the extent of having people in their giftedness. So the question is, well, what is it? So let's jump in. Before I share about giftedness, though, I want to talk about the lore of the lid, because I want to give context to giftedness. You see, the lore of the lid says this. It says, if I'm a level 5 leader, my organization, my division will never go beyond my level 5. If I'm a level 7 leader, my organization will go to a level 6. If I'm a level 10 leader, I'll have a 9 or 10 organization. You see, the lore of the lid says is that the organization never grows beyond the level of the leader. So that's the reason why my wife and I and my partner John and Lions Pride exist, is because we believe that people have so much potential in them, and our job is to help raise the lid so they could have that potential be fulfilled. And a lot of people don't understand that if they're not aware that there's a lid, then they may be that lid to their potential and other people's potential. Because I've had it in my organization where I was the lid to other people's potential. So we're going to talk about some of that today. You know, on the screen in front of you, you're looking at a oil refinery or crude oil refining process. And when you think about it, right now we're all experiencing a tremendous amount of increase in the price of gas and oil and things such as that. But there's a process that happens. If you see, you see all the little lines that are moving, because there's a process when you refine something. And the refining process is really important because, and I'm going to tie this directly into giftedness. Refining takes something like crude oil and it refines it into something that could be used and is valuable. So a lot of people would not buy crude oil it doesn't have as much value. But when you refine it, it creates more value. And the thing is, and I'm going to go into this right now, the thing is that when you refine something, the more you refine it, the more value and more valuable it becomes. See, giftedness is only valuable when it's refined. The gift that every person on this call has, you, myself, and every other person that's on here, it's only valuable when it's refined. So if you look over here on the screen, you see that these are the different types of use for crude oil: petroleum gas, gasoline, paraffin, diesel, fuel oil, lubricating oil, right? And each one of these has a different level of heat that gets applied to it. And that heat continues to refine the process. So, diesel oil and jet fuel oil, the heat is higher. It's at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, where gasoline is 77 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit in the refining process. And I bring that up as an example because visually we can understand that oil has to be, crude oil has to be refined so that we could use it. But I want to challenge you as a leader, because I believe everyone on here is a leader, and my definition of a leader is an influence. If you influence at least one person, my friend, you are a leader. Some people have more influence. They influence 10, 50, 100, 1,000, millions. But leadership is influence, and giftedness needs to be refined for it to be valuable. So there are people on here that lead teams. There are people on here that maybe are just part of a team. There are people on here that are looking for different, maybe moving to a new company or not a new company. Understand that people pay for value. We even though the gasoline prices have gone up substantially in our country right now, we still have to fill up our gas tanks to get to where we need to go. So gas is valuable. And your giftedness is valuable. My giftedness is valuable. So we're going to jump in. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, because giftedness is only valuable when it is refined. And I love Miles Monroe. I think some of his work is absolutely phenomenal. And Miles says this. He says, wealth does not come from your job. It comes from your personal gifting. So many people think that when we create what, if you're going to create wealth for yourself, it's coming from a job. The job pays for the gift. My friend Fareed is a phenomenal leader. He is, I've known him for 20 plus years. His organization pays him because of the gift that Fareed has that he brings to the table for his team and for his clients. And no different than any one of you that are on this call today. All of you have a gift. The question is, do we recognize the gift? And the question is, how do we refine the gift so that it has tremendous value? Okay, and we're going to talk through some of that today. The first thing that I want to talk about gifting is this. In an area of weakness, so in something that you're not strong at, you start at poor performance, and the best you'll ever get is average. So when I look at organizations that we work with, and when I look at teams that want to hire us to come in and develop their leaders, I'm looking for giftedness. Because if we look at an organization that has people that are in the wrong roles and they're poor in their ability in that area, the best they're ever going to be, even with the best training, is average. But the great thing about giftedness is when someone's gifted, and we're going to go through 3 things about giftedness that you need to be aware of. When someone's gifted, they start at average and they have the ability to become excellent. Now, if you look at 2 organizations, the people that are in weaknesses and people that are in strengths, they can't compete against each other. And the reason being is this: people perform better in their strengths, 1. 2, people enjoy it more in their strengths. So I want to encourage you that if you're a leader, look at your people's giftedness and how do you get them in that giftedness, okay? So I'm going to share a couple of quotes. Before we jump into this, I want to share a couple of quotes with you I think is really cool. Winston Churchill, he said this. He said that the price of greatness is responsibility. The price of greatness. Giftedness, refined, is greatness. Greatness doesn't have to be where you change the whole world. Greatness could be where you just change your world. You impacted the people that are on your team. You impacted your family. So I love when he said that the price of greatness is responsibility. And the
Chad, I think
responsibility is we
Chad,
have to refine our gift.
Chad,
we can't expect.
Chad, you broke up a little bit there again. I think it was like the last 15 seconds. I think it was the connection again. Okay. Yeah, it's a little choppy.
How about now?
Right now you're fine, but if you go back about 15 seconds or so, that'd be great.
Yeah, sorry about that. So our responsibility, your responsibility, my responsibility is to refine my gift, to refine your gift. And when we refine it, it becomes more valuable to the world. And Winston Churchill said about the price of greatness is responsibility. It's our responsibility, not other people's responsibility. It's as a leader, as a person who wants to develop and grow and make their future brighter than their past, then it's our responsibility to develop ourselves. I love what Zig Ziglar said. Zig said, you were designed for accomplishment, engineered for success, and endowed with seeds of greatness. Greatness happens in giftedness. Martin Luther King said this. He said, not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great, because greatness is determined by service to others. You see, in giftedness, when we bring the gift to other people, they recognize it and their lives are positively impacted by it. And every one of you in the IT space, in the cybersecurity space, you have a gift. And when you bring it and you use that gift correctly, it brings so much value and adds so much value to people. So we're going to talk about the 3 C's to giftedness, okay? So I would write this down because these are the 3 things that are required for giftedness and greatness, okay? So the first thing is confidence. Often people look at just competence, but competence by itself is not enough for giftedness. Competence, to be gifted, you have to be competent. Yeah, you know, if I was a terrible speaker, no matter how hard I try, I'm not going to get better if I'm a really poor speaker and I'm not competent in that area. But if I have some skill set, I can get better at it. I can refine it. So competency is so key, because to be gifted in an area, you need to have an element of competency. And competency is an above average strength in a given area. Okay. But then there's creativity. And creativity is an above average strength in seeing new ways to do things and be innovative in that given area. So when you're gifted, you're competent, but your competency releases creativity. In areas of giftedness, creativity is released because of competency. And then the last one is this. It's commitment. And I want to read this to you. It says, Malcolm Gladwell said in his book Outliers, he said, based on studies in elite performance, outliers contended that you need to have practiced to have apprenticed for 10,000 hours before you get good at something. So giftedness requires a high level of commitment, because you don't get gifted in an area with just giving a little bit of effort. People that are really gifted and their giftedness impacts people, it's because they're competent. Their competency releases creativity, and then they're committed to the cycle and the journey of success and refining that skill. I want to read to you one thing. My wife and I are friends and obviously mentored by John Maxwell, and he just came out with his new book, the 25th anniversary of this 21 Laws. And in here, he talks about the law of process. And he says this, he says that leadership develops daily, not in a day. And the reason why that's powerful is because so many people believe that you can become gifted in an area just because of talent alone. And I say this often, I say that I would rather have people who work hard with very little gifting and talent than people who have a lot of talent and don't work very hard. You see, I can help develop the other person. And commitment is so key. So when you look at anyone who's doing anything of greatness, and greatness, like I mentioned earlier, greatness doesn't mean you're changing the world. Greatness means you're changing your world. You're making a difference in your team, 5, 7, 10, 15, 20, your family, 2, 3, 5 of you, 10 of you, right? It requires a commitment. And I just want to challenge you that keep pressing forward in commitment, because developing yourself as a leader doesn't happen overnight. I didn't get good overnight. I got recognized maybe overnight, but I didn't get good overnight. It took time. It took intentional preparing. Last month I shared with you my whole journey of going bankrupt and struggling and literally seeing my family home foreclosed on. But I've been committed myself to growing and developing myself for nearly 20 years. And I want to challenge you to do the same thing, because in your area of giftedness, if you have a high level of commitment and you have competence and creativity, you can really make an impact. You could develop and grow in your career tremendously. So I know many of you are probably saying, well, how do you do that? What is a tool that you use to do that? We utilize our leadership assessment. And the reason why is the screen that you're looking at, there's 3 bar graphs. There's a mission, there's a competency, and there's a style. And mission is what you're passionate about. This is the thing that gets you excited. Competency is what you're good at, and style is how you and others perceive you. So it's important when you're doing this because to use tools like this, because it uses scientific data to help you understand giftedness and then refine giftedness. And if you look on the screen here, this person, now this is not me, this is someone else, But this person is very high in theoretical discovery. That means that they're very high in the ability to go into data, pull stuff out of that data, and then how do they use that data to make a difference, to solve problems. Not everyone has that gift. That's why you use tools like leadership assessments. This is one that we use for our companies and for the clients that we work with. There's many out there. I happen to believe that this is probably one of the best ones I've personally have ever used, and I've probably done 10 or 12 of them. The reason why we use it, but it's important because in your gift, you'll find passion, you'll be good at it, and others will recognize you for it. Mission, competency, and style. So I'm going to give you 12 things about giftedness. So if you have a notebook in front of you, I'd encourage you to take some notes. But I'm going to give you 12 things about giftedness that I believe will make a major difference for you. The first one is this. Giftedness stretches you. It stretches you because you have to prioritize now. You can no longer, if you recognize what you're gifted in, now you have to prioritize in where you're going to put your time. So it stretches you because the things that you were able to do last year or last month before you were aware of giftedness changes when you understand your giftedness. So it certainly stretches you. It stretches you because you got to become more. Giftedness will motivate you. I don't need people to motivate me. I'm motivated. And the reason why I'm motivated is because I understand what my gift is and I understand how I want to make a difference in people's lives. So when you recognize your giftedness, it will motivate you. It will encourage you. It will inspire you. If you're finding yourself, and I want to speak right now to some people that are on this call, because you may be saying, well, I'm not feeling that way. And that's okay. I'm not as motivated as I used to be, and that's okay. But understand this, is the motivation because of emotional and physical exhaustion due to COVID-19? Or is the motivation not there because you're doing something that you're not passionate about? That's a big distinction. Because people that are in giftedness are motivated. I'm in giftedness. I spend a lot of time in my area of strength. But if I could be real with you right now, I've been pushing real hard for the last few months. And I've been telling my team, I'm running on empty. Now, I'm not as motivated as I normally am, but it's not because I'm not passionate about what I'm doing. It's because I'm physically and emotionally exhausted. And as a leader, we have to recognize when we're exhausted emotionally and physically. My mom was in the hospital in ICU for almost 2 months. And I had to, my wife and I had to be back and forth at the hospital every day, running our multiple companies, being there for our team members. While we did the best that we could, it certainly was emotionally and physically exhausting. So I don't feel as motivated as I normally am. But it's not because I'm not passionate about what I'm doing. And that's what giftedness requires. It motivates you even when you're physically and emotionally tired. So I would encourage you to go back and say, am I still motivated? And if I'm not, is it because I'm emotionally tired and physically tired? That's okay. But if it's because you've lost passion for what you do, that's a different story. And you need to look at that. Giftedness requires awareness to reach your full potential. You see, I give an example often when I speak to corporations and companies, and I say, we all have a gas tank. Everyone has a different size gas tank. So the purpose of a gas tank in an airline is to take hundreds of people across country. So of course you need thousands of gallons of gas. A Prius doesn't need as much gas because the goal is to take a few people around in a local community, typically. Maybe once in a while to go on a long drive. So the gas tank for a Toyota Prius is much smaller than the gas tank for a jetliner. They have different purposes. And the reason why I say that giftedness requires awareness to reach potential is because when you're aware of what your purpose is, you're aware of what your potential is, now you can say whether you're accomplishing that or not. And giftedness, when you understand your giftedness, it then requires you to reach your potential. You know that I say this often a lot, that one of the most, I'm not going to say scary, but one of the most motivating things to me is when I think later on in life, when I hear one day that I don't have much more time left, I have an hour, 2 hours left. The doctor says, you know, you don't have much more life left in you. The thing that motivates me is I want to have given everything I had inside, and I don't want any of it to come with me to the grave. And that's reaching full potential. And so many of you that are on this call today have so much potential inside of you. Understand your giftedness. The awareness then will require you to reach that potential. It requires trade-offs to reach your potential. Giftedness requires trade-offs. You see, when I recognized my giftedness, there were other things that I liked doing, but I wasn't gifted in. So what I had to do is I had to put it aside and say, I'm going to give that to the team. Even though I enjoy doing it, I'm not gifted at it. That's a trade-off. Because a leader has to give the team what gives the best chance for the team to win. And it's not me doing sometimes the things that I like, it's me doing the things that I'm gifted in. And typically what I'm gifted in, I also like, but there are certain things that I've had to give up in my career that I liked doing, but I wasn't gifted in. Giftedness is the source of your greatest fulfillment. When you're in that sweet spot, when you're in the area that you love doing, when your competence, when your character, when your commitment, when all of that adds up, and you're finding fulfillment, it's because you're in your gift, and your gift will bring fulfillment. While I'm physically exhausted, and by the way, I'm getting away on Friday, so I'm not complaining because my wife and I are going away on a beautiful trip, but I am physically exhausted, but giftedness still gives me fulfillment. I am super excited to be here spending time with you today because this is one of my gifts. And I get fulfillment from it, investing in developing leaders like yourself. It also births the passion to fulfill your vision. When you're in your strength, when you're in your giftedness, you will have the passion to fulfill your vision. And the thing that I know is this: I always talk about make your purpose bigger than your problem. If you're in your giftedness, you will always make your purpose while you're doing something bigger than the problem that you're dealing with at that moment. I mentioned to you a little while ago that my mom was in the hospital. She was in ICU for like 45 to 50 days from March to May. And I remember in my head saying, Chad, this is going to be an uphill battle right now. Just make your purpose bigger than your problem. Because what happens is when you're in your giftedness, you'll have passion to fulfill the vision regardless of that problem. Giftedness multiplies value to you and others. The great thing about people that are in giftedness encourages others to be in their giftedness. And it multiplies value to them. You see, because the stuff that I'm sharing with you today, that I'm sharing from my strength, is going to impact you and add value to you and hopefully others. Well, you have a gift. It maybe it's different than mine, but you have a gift. And when you're in that gift, you multiply value to others and yourself. So I want to encourage you, continue to be in your gift. Recognize the gift. It also increases your influence. I was just listening, probably a week and a half ago, I was listening to Miles Monroe. He was talking about LeBron James, and he was talking about Steph Curry. And these are NBA basketball players. If some of you are not basketball fans, but they're at the top of their game. And he was talking about how if you get good in an area and you dominate that area, you will then have influence in every area. So most people want influence, but the way to get influence is your giftedness will increase your influence, because if you're gifted in an area, it will bring people to recognize the gift. And then that gives you influence in all areas in people with people. You see, because when you're gifted in an area, if I name Michael Jordan, you say basketball. If I say Babe Ruth, you say baseball. If I say, Serena Williams, you say tennis. If I say Tiger Woods, you say golf. If I say, Rockefeller, you say oil. Every person that you know that has ever done anything worthwhile was in a gift, and the gift brought the influence. It also gives you a competitive advantage. One of the things that I do when I'm working with companies, and when we're looking at potentially them bringing us on, is I want them to experience my gift when we're sitting down to discuss how they can hire us and how we can add value to their company. It gives me a competitive advantage than having a traditional salesperson sitting in the room, because they're getting the ability to experience my gift as we sit down with the owner of the company, or we sit down with the board and the CEO. Your gift gives you a competitive advantage. Recognize the gift. I'm going to come back to it. Our giftedness is only valuable when it's refined. Recognize the gift, refine the gift, and it becomes really valuable to others. The gift opens up door to influential people. When you have a gift and you use the gift more often, remember we were talking about commitment? When you have a gift and you commit to refining that gift, it will open up doors and put you in front of influential people. So if you want to grow in your organization, recognize your personal gift, refine that gift, and I promise you, other people around you will start recognizing it and saying, so-and-so is doing so much better. You use the gift. That gift opens up doors. It's also your gift to the world. Me doing this is a gift to the world because it's a strength that I have. If I was to sing, I promise you, you would jump off immediately, because I am a terrible singer. But my giftedness is my gift to the world. You have a gift. What is that you bring to your business? What is that you bring to your friendships? What is that you bring to your family? What is that gift that you bring that can be a gift to the world? And then this is the last one, is that giftedness creates true wealth. You can't create lasting wealth if you don't refine the gift. And I just want to encourage you, as we continue to wrap up, that the gift is what opens up the door. The gift is what will create wealth for you. I had a coach many years ago. He said this to me. He gave me an example. He took $2, a dollar bill and a dollar bill, and he said, okay, Chad, let's give it back and forth. So we were going back and forth like this, a dollar, 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 and just giving each other dollar bills. And about after 2 minutes, he said, what was just what did we just do there? I said, we just wasted 2 minutes. He said, exactly, because we were exchanging a dollar for a dollar, same value. People who understand their gift exchange their gift, and the world exchanges more resources for that gift. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio. And in your business, in the teams that you lead, understand each person's gift, understand your gift. It will give you a competitive advantage in the world. It will help you become more successful financially. It will also help your organization grow and thrive, because people pay for giftedness, not for mediocrity. So I want to challenge you today with committing to understand your giftedness. We have leadership assessments. You could reach out to us. The email is info@lionsprideLeadership.com. That can help you on the journey. But my question is this, in wrapping, and I know Fareed and I we're going to have a discussion around this. My question is this: do you have a growth path that you're following? Do you have an intentional growth path of how you're developing yourself and refining your gift? And if the answer is no, then I would say, how can you develop your leadership and how can you develop your gift? Because in any strength, technically, you need leadership. Leadership plus technical creates influence. So if you don't have an intentional growth plan, I would challenge you to create an intentional growth plan that could refine your gift. Because when you refine the gift, you and your organization thrive. So I want to thank you for today. Thank you for spending time with me. And I know Fareed and I are going to open up now for some questions and really just go deeper.
Thanks for that, Chad. We have a few questions coming in, and yes, one of them is asking if this is being recorded. Yes, this is recorded. This will be on the website, as all others are, on the New York, so isacanewyork.org/leadership. You should be able to see it there. So Chad, let's go backwards. There were quite a few that came in, but I'm going to go in reverse, just because of the context and the timing. One was, you mentioned exchanging gifts. That's not one-to-one. How do you know when you're getting your worth?
I want to make sure I understand that one, Fareed.
It says regarding exchanging gifts. It's not one-to-one, as you say.
Yeah.
How do you know if you're getting your worth on your gift?
So the first part of it is this. I think too many people focus too much on how much they get paid instead of how much value they create. And I'll give you an example. If you create so much value, you don't have to worry, you will get paid. I think a lot of people focus more on, I'll give an agricultural example. They focus more on the harvest, what they're receiving, rather than the seeds that they're planting. And if you consistently plant good seeds, you will get noticed and your compensation will increase because they will want you, they will need you, and they will figure out a way to make it work financially for you.
It's a very, very good point. You're right. A lot of people really look at the dollar value as opposed to the potential downstream. That's a good point that you made there.
Fareed, can I want to add to what I had shared too. Most people are looking for, their philosophy is, I'll give as little as possible and take as much as possible. And unfortunately, what that does is that leaves every relationship with a insufficient notice fund, insufficient notice. Because if you and I are in a relationship, and listen, I've tried my best to do this with you guys at ISACA as we're working with you and partnering and developing this whole continuum. If I can give you more value than you ever can give me back in compensation, our relationship will always be in a positive way, because then you'll figure out ways to try to add more value to us, and we'll figure out ways to try to add more value to you. But a lot of times on teams, we have people that say they want to grow, so they want the perks of promotion. They have uphill dreams with downhill habits.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And there are quite a few questions popping off in here, so I'll try to get through this as quickly as we can, because I know time is going to start to catch up to us. Leadership's developed daily, not in a day, as you said. It's a good point. But how do you get to your apex? How do you know you are there?
Yeah. So that's assuming that there's a finish line. I don't believe there's a finish line. I believe I'm playing an infinite game, not a finite game. So an infinite game doesn't have a finish line, Fareed. An infinite game says this. It says, every day I'm going to work on refining my skill. Every day I'm going to work on refining my giftedness. And I don't know how far I'm going to go, but I'm not going to stop until I'm no longer here. I'm going to keep refining. A lot of people, they put finish lines in their life. And when you cross the finish line, you're finished.
I think that's a good point. You're right. It's a continual self-development over time. I guess one of the points I would make here is that, and Jim Ambrosini actually mentioned this at the gala, is that gut check, that continual check-in with yourself to kind of see if what your goal is, if you're achieving where you believe you want to be. A lot of folks kind of talk about, I want to be more patient. I want to be less short with people. I want to develop myself and grow. And what does that mean, right? It's all in the eye of the beholder. It's the eye of the people around you, the people that you really trust. They're a really good benchmark. But I hope that helps. Chad made a good point, and the continual improvement is if you're not growing, you're regressing. Really, is what it comes down to.
And Fareed, the thing I love about ISACA, right, and your chapter, is you understood that it was a continuum. The word continuum in itself says is an ongoing process, right? I think too many people are looking to get to the finish line instead of enjoying the journey towards that. And what happens is, JP Morgan, he had said this, he said, keep moving forward. And then eventually when you get there, you'll be able to see further. A lot of people want to see the whole step, the whole process, and they're not comfortable just moving. And that used to be me. But what I recognize is this: if I just every day work on getting better, I ask myself this question every day: what did I learn from today? And for the last 12 years, every Monday through Friday, I ask myself that question: what did I learn from today? What was my lesson learned today? And I write it down. I have a document that I use, and I write it down every day. So I'm planning on doing that till the day I'm no longer here. The key is this: is that when we're doing that, we're growing every single day. If we're learning something from every day, that means we're growing. That means Chad and Fareed tomorrow is going to be better than Chad and Fareed from today.
I like that. It's a comprehensive view on that. We have five more, quite a few questions here, but there's the expression that if you love your job, you'll never work a day in your life. Do you believe this? And does that align with one's giftedness?
Yeah, so giftedness requires passion. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, there's a high likelihood you're not in your giftedness. You may be in something that you're good at, but not gifted at, right? So to that person who asked that question, yesterday I was in the office till 1 o'clock in the morning, quite frankly. And I was up on a call at 7:30. But it wasn't because I felt like I had to. It was because I have a passion for what I do. And that passion drives me. So I believe the phrase that if you love what you'll do, you'll never work a day in your life. I don't think people understand how to do that. And part of how to do that is the leadership assessments that I was mentioning, because that will show you what you're really passionate about. It'll show you what your giftedness is. And then you can then start taking that and refining it. Most people will go off of emotions. I'm saying going off of observation and scientific data.
That's a good point. And we talked about this right before the call. There was an individual that actually went through that Pro D with you. And we have a question about that, where they can find that assessment illustrated today. So if you want to repeat that again, Chad.
Yeah, you can, if you're interested in learning more about the leadership assessment or getting one for yourself, you can email info@lionsprideleadership.com, and someone on my team will get back to you and get you that information. That's info@lionsprideleadership.com.
Perfect. And anything that comes through the membership committee as well, we'll cycle that through. But that individual was someone that I appreciate, very, very strong leader in risk and security. He took the Pro D assessment, and it made him realize that after almost 20 years of consulting in a certain way, it wasn't for him. And I didn't realize that something was that powerful can really make you self-reflect, and it did. And it caused a series of cause and effect, where he met with his wife and family and started to realize that maybe it's time for a change based on his capabilities, based on his giftedness, based on he and his family's goals and ambitions. So it's an amazing tool, and Chad has it. So reach out on that. Another question here: as a leader, how would you motivate / influence someone that you recognize talent / giftedness they possess, but they don't believe, or they are just negative?
Yeah. So we spoke about that on awareness last month. I spoke about, so I would, whoever asked that question, I would encourage you to go back to last month, 2 months ago's continuum, because I spoke about awareness, and in that I spoke about thoughts turn into beliefs, beliefs turn into behaviors, and behaviors turn into results. You can't change results in people's lives unless we address belief systems. I'll give you a perfect example. In my life, my belief system around sales was it was a manipulative thing and it was a bad thing. Well, I can tell you this, I am very happy for the doctor who sold me and my family on having my mom do a certain heart surgery because it changed her life. They sold us on it, told us the pros, told us the cons, but my mom is here today because that person sold me on what was in best interest of my family. That thought, that belief system many years ago stopped me from being as successful as I could have been and the impact I could have made because my view on sales was warped. Well, the second I got through my belief system, the next year I had a 500% increase in my business because the belief system was holding me back from better results. And that same thing with that one person that you're asking that question about is, as a leader, our job is to help people understand the belief systems that are holding them back from their full potential. And that's what great leaders do. They release potential in other people because they get people to get breakthroughs through belief systems that have been limiting.
Unbelievable. Those are the main ones. I saw some that came through that you answered indirectly in there. I see some more popping up now. But you made some really good points there, Chad. I mean, it's some things you're a part of. Knowing your value is very important. It's not one-to-one. The dollar scenario is it really kind of resonated with me as well. Everybody kind of thinks that everything's kind of equal at the end of the day, and it truly isn't. The value that you bring, and the irony is that even, believe it or not, with volunteers, right? Volunteers don't get paid. So how do they get paid? You know, we used to make the joke when we were doing the Hurricane Sandy and Ida relief stuff. It's like the hugs and kisses and the love from God and all this other non-tangible stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what your value is, and you know what your payment is. If your payment is the ego boost, your payment's the ego boost. If your payment is knowing that you gave back because you have an obligation to give, you have 2 hands, 2 feet. As my mom always said, you have 2 hands, 2 feet. You are obligated to give and pay forward. As my mom always taught me that. Everybody has their own payment strategy here, but everyone also has a gift. And if you could play into that gift, you build efficiencies and you drive efficiencies that let your workload drop substantially. If you're going against your giftedness, you just have to work harder to get a lesser result. I love that image that you had before about you could never exceed that ceiling, right? You'll always be below it. And your team, you taught me this a while ago about if you have a team structure and you're always at 90, well, your team below you will never come near 90, right? It's always going to regress from there. It's a pyramid perspective.
Yeah.
And in all likelihood, the folks that you're training don't usually beat the teacher. So a lot of it plays into this.
Yeah.
A question came in. Are the trade-off requirements number 4 identified as a result of the required awareness number 3?
Yeah, it is. Whoever asked that question, I just want to share this. You, my friend, have tremendous potential to even recognize that, because awareness requires you to then have to give trade-offs. So the second you're aware of something, I give the example all the time of blind spots, right? A blind spot is a blind spot because you didn't see it. But the second that you know that the blind spot's there, it's no longer a blind spot. So now you're accountable to it. That is the exact same thing, because once you recognize your giftedness and you're aware of it, now it requires you to have to do a trade-off so that you can fulfill the potential that you have in you. And I don't know who that is, that person, but I just want to tell you, you have a lot of leadership potential because you have a high level of intuitiveness to be able to glean that from that without me verbally saying that.
Wow. You'd be surprised to know who the person that asked that question is. That's impressive. So unbelievable. So what I would say, we have a few minutes left here. I want to talk about the next leadership principle and talk about next steps here. But just a quick reflection on giftedness. Chad, I'll tell you right now, we've had people across all industries. I've been talking to a lot of consulting firms. I've been talking to people outside of our business in general here in the risk side of the house. And there's been a lot of mental regression as of late. A lot of folks have been leaving the industry. A lot of people are checked out. Summertime's here on top of it, and people are literally just aiming for the end zone. What I would say is that, you know, I have had conversations, and some of the conversations are very, very interesting. Really, really interesting conversations about not knowing if they want to do something they've been doing for 8 to 10 years, not knowing if they're kind of playing into their strengths, if they're leveraging their gifts. They're not usually using those words exactly, but the way that they're speaking about it happens to kind of fall into that. And just their ego alone, what they say they want to do, isn't strong enough to motivate them to continue to do so. It kind of goes back to that book, Mini Habits, about just starting to do one push-up just to get into the habit to continue to do it. And the first thing it says is you can set a goal and you can say that you're going to run a marathon. You're never going to do it, right? But if you
go ahead, finish. I'll share right after.
Go for it. And I think I think you're on the wavelength on that.
So I was struggling with getting to the gym. Like, listen, I'm very accountable in so many areas of my life, but this one area I was really struggling. And I read a book called Atomic Habits, speaking to exactly what you were just saying, right? And he said, just get there once. So I set a goal. Let me get there 5 times for the month. I got there 5. The next month, let me get there 6 times. I got there 6. The next month, let me get there 7 times. And then when I was telling people what I was doing, they were laughing. I said, but you're not understanding is for 2 years, 3 years, I haven't gotten to the gym. And now it's a game. And now I got momentum. And momentum is the key in all of this. Momentum, when you have it, you look better than you are. When you don't have it, you look worse than you are. And there were years that I didn't have any momentum. I think people, to your point, what you just brought up was a really valuable point, that people just need to figure out how to get a couple of wins under their belt to get some momentum back.
Agreed. That's unbelievable. That's well put and well placed. So Chad, with the 2 minutes remaining, just reflections on giftedness and then the next leadership principle, if you want to tease that in for the one that's coming 2 months from now.
Yeah. So
and a question came out of left field. Yeah. How do you identify an organization that wants to invest in their employees' giftedness?
Yeah, so that's a good question. The first is this. The organization will be a leadership organization where they will value developing people. You'll see it. You'll see it in your organization. I said this to a person when I was doing some coaching with them, and I said to them, I said, it's very easy to recognize if someone values something. There's hear me out. There's 2 things that you can recognize to know if someone values something. The first is their calendar. So if you're talking about an organization that values leadership, then they will block that out intentionally in their calendar to develop people. That's the first thing. The second thing is their checkbook. They will put money behind it. So if you're a person who's growing your team, make sure you block out time and resources. If you're a person looking for an organization that's a leadership organization, then you want to look at, do they block out time intentionally to develop their leaders on their team? And do they put financial resources behind it? It's the simplest thing, because your calendar and your checkbook are the 2 things that have a hold of your heart.
Thank you for that, Chad. And with that said, let's go into the next leadership principle and any reflections you have on the current principle.
Yeah, I think, Fareed, I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job at ISACA in getting exposure out to leadership and developing and raising people's lid. I think you guys are doing phenomenal. I don't know if I was talking with you or Justin before, but I said, I bet you're going to see all other chapters take and want to do this, because you're literally you guys are lid lifters for a whole industry in New York City, and ultimately around the globe, because I'm sure there's other people that are on these calls. Giftedness is a key, and one of the things that you're very, very gifted is highlighting people. You've done a phenomenal. I mean, for years I've seen you do that, right? That's a gift of yours, that you're able to recognize someone and then highlight them. I saw that at the gala. when we were at the gala, how you recognized so many people and you highlighted them and you encouraged them, right? That is a gift. But if you don't know that it's your gift of encouragement, you won't refine it. Unfortunately, and this is one takeaway, most people in their giftedness, because it comes so natural to them, they don't value it. So just because it comes natural to you and you're gifted at it, Fareed, doesn't mean that it's not valuable. So the more we recognize it, the easier it becomes. But most people don't look at giftedness because it comes too easy. But that is giftedness. It comes so easy because you're gifted at it. So that's giftedness. The next continuum, we're going to be talking about style. And style is step 5 of the 8 steps to developing people. And really what it talks about is this, is that every leader has the 4 H's. They have the head, the heart, the hands, and the habits. But everything flows out of the heart. As a leader, if your heart is not in the right place, it don't matter. Because if your heart is to manipulate people, they'll feel it. If your heart is to empower people, they'll feel it. You get your heart right, everything takes care of itself.
Outstanding. Chad, as always, you and Lions Pride Leadership, unbelievable teaming. Looking forward to working with you in our next year, because our year ends pretty much tomorrow. So looking forward to continuing this continuum over our next year. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you again, Chad.
All right. Thank you, guys. Be well.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.